those that don't know, the V6 Cup is the go-faster version of the Exige V6S. Being a Lotus, that means power remains at 345 bhp, but weight has been reduced by almost 70 kilos. This actual car weighed 1135 kg with aircon and a fair bit of fuel on board. To achieve that you need a lot of no's. No stereo, no carpets, no sound deadening, no central locking, no airbags, no alarm, no immobiliser, no mud flaps, no sun visors, no electric anything apart from the windows. In return, you also get zero roll, zero slack, no fade from the brakes ever, nothing corrupting the pure feedback coming through the Momo steering wheel. And no BS either. This is no faux road racer. It's made by Lotus Motorsport. It's fully FIA compliant and comes ready to race out of the box. But what's it really like to live with a genuine road legal race car for 12 months? Fortunately, bespoke nitron dampers are very easy to adjust, and even going just a few clicks softer makes a marked difference. However, you quickly lose some of the Cup car's signature front end bite, so for tracks and smoother roads you'll be wanting to restore the factory settings, which are roughly midway through the wide range of adjustment. Left untouched, very low speed ride is pretty punishing, but there's real compliance as you pick up the pace. The biggest penalty to pay for the extra sharpness is road noise. This is a good thing up to around 80 miles an hour. You get a bit more of the V6 raw inside the cabin. But faster motorway work can become tiresome and conversation becomes harder work above 100 miles an hour. I can recommend some noise cancelling earphones and an iPod for long motorway slogs. The overriding sensation on the road is one of seemingly limitless grip. The V6 Cup has entirely antisocial cornering limits that you'll never be able to fully exploit on the road. You always have massive amounts of cornering and braking ability in reserve. It feels preloaded for corners, which it is thanks to the race geometry. Normally you'd have to pay for this with some straight line nervousness, but this is where the suspension wizards at Lotus really earn their corn. This is one of the most responsive cars you can buy, yet it remains very confidence inspiring. Some true genius at work here. As with the steering, unchanged from the V6S, but its ability to delight with each and every drive just never gets old. It's not an especially fast rack, but the response to inputs is so linear and precise it would be the last thing on the car you'd ever want to change. Realistic maximum range is about 250 miles. I actually think that's pretty impressive from a 40-litre tank. You can get a larger tank fitted, but after living with it for a year, it's not worth it for me. Oil consumption is even better, having not used a single drop in over 7,000 miles, and the lusty supercharged V6 is feeling fitter than ever. Of course, where you'd expect this version of the V6 to shine is on the track. Unlike the many heavier cars with supposed track credentials, the Cup can sustain a respectable lap time all day long. It's a complete natural on the track and can generate cornering forces that make the 4-point harnesses essential. In a country where tracks are few and far between, a regular V6S might make more sense. But in the UK, where we are blessed with an abundance of world-class tracks within 2 hours drive from anywhere, this car's potential will not be wasted. Crucially, the pedals are well set up for heel and toe, but as is usually the case, you need to be braking harder to appreciate this. On the road you rarely use enough brake travel for easy heel and toe, but it's better that it's set up this way. I find the gearbox in this particular car to be very slick and precise. The shift action is light and very fast thanks to the low friction motorsport cables. Any fluff gear changes early on are entirely due to driver error, but the rate it can swap cogs can take a while to adjust to. Those used to a firmer, more physical gear change will need to recalibrate their clutch and stick timing. The way it transfers lateral loads from one side to the other through a classic S-bend sequence is breathtaking. Weight is transferred seamlessly across the chassis. There's no settling into a bend No roll, no lurch, it turns in precisely as fast as you move your hands. It has a real nose for an apex. You have to be either very clumsy or very ambitious to induce any real understeer, and it feels unusually comfortable, trail braking into an apex to keep the front tyres loaded. Traction exiting corners is mighty, so much so that to date a limited slip diff would have only been of very limited use. As things stand, it wouldn't be worth the likely penalty of more understeer for me. While they last, the standard fit P0 Trofeos offer tremendous grip in all conditions for a road legal tyre, but they do wear quickly at the rear. As it happens, this other V6 Cup was on Avon ZZRs, but they didn't appear to offer any obvious advantage. Toyota Source Supercharged V6 is terrific. Judging it purely on how it sounds and how it bungs you up the road, there's very little anyone could reasonably complain about. 345 bhp may not sound that much these days, but it's enough to make an Exige able to hang on to some pretty exotic stuff on the straights. A solid slug of torque at the low end of the rev range is followed by a linear, progressive swell of power through the mid-range. It's really getting into its stride as the note hardens at around 5,000 RPM, before screaming to a searing crescendo at 7,000. The power delivery is very normally aspirated in nature, something that proved invaluable for goofing around in desperately slippery conditions at Donington, as you're about to see. All of this only proves that senseless dicking about on a deserted, soaking wet Donington Park is huge fun. But it does also show that the car is sweetly balanced, especially for a mid-engine car. You still have to respond quickly to catch a slide, but the longer wheelbase and extra steering lock compared to the 4-cylinder Exiges means it's ultimately more catchable. The plan is to keep this car until I'm too old and fat to get in it. But of course, no car is beyond criticism. There's no good reason why it still has speaker grills in the dash. The aircon buttons are too dimly lit. It still has indicator stalks from a 1990s Cavalier. The The wheel centre badges melt if you forget to remove them before a track day, and if you don't secure your garage sandwiches properly, they can hit the electrical cut-off and bring the car to a sudden halt. But for a car to drive to the track, lap to your heart's content and drive home again, Lotus have struck black and gold.